Hey guys, what's up? It's the Tominator, and with just 1 week to go, I think it's time to start making some Mr. Olympia predictions. Okay, so the thing is, I've been making a lot of top 10 videos lately, most notably the Best Body Part series, which is still ongoing, and doing that style of vid is honestly pretty draining. It's a lot more effort to rank something like this, and when it comes to making contest predictions, we're all just basically guessing and pulling numbers out of our ass anyway. So I said, screw it, we're just gonna wing it this time and talk about some of the main contenders. Sound good? Alright, so let's just start by saying this. The poster got it right. Yeah, the promoters who put this thing together obviously know what they're about because this is the group to watch out for right here. This is, on paper, your top 7 in 2020. You should already know the names if you've followed bodybuilding at all for the past year or so. We're talking Dexter Jackson, Big Ramy, Rowley Winkler, William Bonac, Hadi Choopan, Brandon Curry, and Phil Heath. That's who should be in the top 7 this year, if these guys all do their homework. Because talent-wise, there's a pretty big drop-off after that. No disrespect to the rest of the competitors, but these guys have all cracked top 3 before at some point. Hell, we've got not 1, not 2, but 3 former Mr. Olympias in this group, so they've all already proven that they belong here. Flex Lewis would be another one to add to the mix, but unfortunately he pulled out a few weeks ago and won't be competing this year. It's a shame because I think we were all looking forward to his rematch with Hadi, not to mention seeing how he'd stack up in the open class against the likes of William Bonac, Dexter, and Phil, but well, maybe next year. Now, as for the order, well, we already established there wasn't going to be a countdown this time, but let's just talk about each man individually, and I'll offer some thoughts. So let's start with Big Ramy, who received a special invitation since he technically didn't qualify, even though personally I think that's nonsense to begin with, because placing 3rd in a stacked Arnold Classic lineup like he did should be sufficient. But it's a moot point now, I guess. But anyway, here's the deal. Big Ramy has proven to be a big frustration throughout most of his career. He's got all the tools, all the mass in the world, with some of the freakiest quads and one of the widest backs we've ever seen. It's no exaggeration to say that Ramy has been the next big thing for the last, 6 or 7 years now? He's the spiritual successor to former mass monsters like Jay Cutler and Ronnie Coleman, who dominated the scene before him. The problem is, Ramy never quite delivers on all that promise. He continues to miss the mark on the conditioning front, and at this point, you'll have to forgive me for losing faith. I'm not writing Ramy off, not completely. After all, he came in 2nd just 3 years ago in 2017. But let's just say I'm done getting my hopes up. Realistically, I could see Ramy landing somewhere in that 4 to 6 range, depending on how ripped he gets. But I'd be surprised if he cracks the top 3, and downright shocked if he comes in 1st or 2nd. Rowley Winkler suffers from a similar problem. He's another freaky fan favorite who always seems to come in huge and full, but usually fails to dry out sufficiently to really challenge for a top spot. His best placing came in 2018, where he took 3rd. But at this point, after failing to improve since then, I'm beginning to suspect that might have been the high point for Rowley. It's doubtful that he can continue to get better at his age. The guy is already 43 years old, lest we forget. And unless your name is Dexter Jackson or Sean Roden, very few bodybuilders tend to hit their peak over the age of 40. So again, realistically, I think Rowley will be in the bottom half of this top 7, probably no higher than 5th. But I'd love to be proven wrong here, since he still remains one of my current faves. And speaking of age, let's discuss Dexter Jackson, who is now 51 and still going. Never mind the Blade, they should rename him the Energizer Bunny at this point because the longevity is just getting ridiculous. Even so, I don't expect anything too crazy from Dex. It'd be nice if he manages to duplicate his 2020 Arnold Classic physique, where he arguably looked the best he has in years, especially at the finals, but I'm not counting on it. Still, unlike Rowley or Ramy, Dexter is the epitome of consistency and knows how to come in shape, so we gotta give him credit where credit is due. That's why I wouldn't be surprised if he winds up beating both of those guys and comes in 4th or 5th. I think there could be an interesting battle between those three, with the loser dropping out of the top 6. Of course, William Bonac is another name to watch. He seems to be flying under the radar. No one is really talking about him despite the fact he was 2nd last year and is the current Arnold Classic champ. Did people just forget about all that? I don't think we've seen less hype for a guy with a track record like this, probably ever. So in William's mind, he's got to be feeling pretty damn good about himself right now. There's only one bodybuilder objectively ahead of him. Well, maybe 2 now with Phil back in the picture. But he's already recently defeated all these other guys. Still, I think there are valid reasons for the apparent lack of excitement. First, even though William has established himself as one of the top 2 or 3 bodybuilders in the world over the past couple of years, collecting 2 Arnold Classic titles and 2 top 3 finishes at the Olympia, I don't think very many people feel he's actually getting better. Personally, I think he peaked in 2017, where he took 3rd behind Big Ramy. Since then, his midsection has only seemed to grow larger, and in order to dial it back last year, he showed up looking very flat. Secondly, his runner-up placing in 2019 was highly debatable. My impression from seeing all the feedback on social media, reading the comments, and watching other videos and such, is that most of the fans would have actually had Hadi Choopan in 2nd instead. To which I would absolutely agree. So I think Hadi kind of stole a lot of Bonac's thunder and has cemented himself as the best small man in the game right now. And small is probably a poor choice of word given the amount of muscle these guys are packing on their frames. Let's just say short or compact instead. Okay, so let's talk about Hadi Choopan. The Persian Wolf is arguably the biggest wildcard in the show. Especially since I'm still not sure it's clear that he'll even be able to compete. That's always a tricky situation given his Iranian heritage, and especially in 2020 with all the travel restrictions. So I'm still not sure he's confirmed. You guys can let me know in the comments if you've heard either way. But assuming he'll be there, I think Hadi will be challenging for a top 3 spot. It's shaping up to be a really good battle between him and Bonac. They compare very favorably since they both have similar types of physiques, smaller framed but very complete with some outstanding details and knockout poses. Bonac has the edge from the rear, especially in that back double bi. But if Hadi brings that razor sharp conditioning again, like he did last year, he should be able to edge out anything short of a 100% William Bonac. I can even foresee a scenario where Hadi sneaks his way all the way up into 2nd place, sort of pulls a Branch Warren from 2009 when he upset the reigning champ Dexter Jackson, despite not even being featured in the top 2 call-out. It could happen again. And this leads us directly to the top 2, Brandon Curry and Phil Heath. Now, if this was WrestleMania, this would be the main event, okay? This is what the fans are paying for. And here's how I see it going down. Phil Heath will win his 8th Sandow if he manages to come in with a flat stomach. That's assuming also that he brings a similar level of conditioning and muscularity to what we've come to expect from him, but it's really that simple. He doesn't even need to be at his best. Even 90% would be good enough for him to win in this lineup. And let's face it, this isn't going to be the best Phil Heath we've ever seen. There's no chance. So don't expect to see another 2011 or 2013. Those days are well behind us. What I am hoping is that Phil is able to approximate one of his more mediocre forms, say like 2015 or 2016, where, maybe he comes in a little flat, but it is shredded to the bone with no major distension. That's all he has to do, and the crown is his once again. So in order to repeat, Brandon Curry will have to be at or near 100%. He's going to have to be better than last year, that's for sure. That caliber of physique just isn't going to cut it, assuming Phil comes in on point. I don't even think Curry's 2019 Arnold Classic version, where he was actually a little sharper than the Olympia, is going to be enough to hang on. So basically, Brandon's going to have to be at his all-time best to even have a chance of winning again. It's not impossible given his recent trajectory, but I wouldn't say it's likely either. My gut feeling is that he's got, say, a 25 to 30% chance of pulling it off. And that's no disrespect to the champ. I love Brandon's physique and have been championing him for years, since around 2017, when I thought his 8th place finish was total bullcrap and said as much, arguing that he should have placed higher. He's an extremely classy dude as well, a great ambassador for the sport. But the judges aren't judging based on personality. They're judging the physique. And in the end, we're comparing a 1-time champ against a 7-time champ. But here's an interesting scenario that I was alluding to earlier. Imagine Brandon doesn't improve. Imagine he comes in looking the same as last year, or maybe even slightly worse. That leaves the door wide open for someone like Hattie Chupan, or even William Bonac, to sidle into second place. So, to put it bluntly, I'd say there's about an equal chance that Curry not only doesn't repeat, but that he doesn't even remain in the top 2. It happened before in 2009 to Dexter, so it wouldn't be unprecedented. Certainly there's a parallel here with Curry being the most vulnerable Mr. Olympia since Dexter in 2008. So just to clarify, I'm not saying it's going to happen, I'm just pointing out that it's a very real possibility. That said, I don't want to dismiss Brandon Curry just yet. I actually hope he does nail it and gives Phil a run for his money, because I think he actually compares very favorably when you go pose for pose. Phil is obviously better in terms of conditioning and muscle maturity. He's almost certainly going to show more detail and separation, and he's more complete. But Brandon has the better structure and flow, while carrying a similar level of mass and fullness. So unless he's way off, Brandon should win the front double biceps. He's got the better taper and can hang with Phil in the gun department. Phil will have the edge in the lower half, but I don't think it'll be enough. Brandon will also take the front lat spread pretty easily. He's so much wider in this shot, and to be frank, most of the top guys already beat Phil in this pose even when he was winning. I'd say it's his worst pose by far. Even the side chest should be tight. Curry's one of the very few who can match the roundness and thickness of Phil in this shot, and his legs look their best from the side. I still expect Phil to edge him out on detail and separation, but it won't be a blowout. And if Phil comes in too flat and depleted trying to deflate that stomach, Curry might steal it. As for the back poses, both of them should go to Phil because he's got thinner skin that shows more definition, and his lower body is superior, from calves to glutes. But Curry still has the width advantage, and he's one of the few who can stand next to Phil in the back double and not get completely smoked. Still, I don't expect anybody to beat Heath from the rear. The side triceps will be interesting though. If Phil controls his midsection, he should be able to hold on because he's got the better triceps. But Brandon looks excellent in this pose too, so if Phil has any visible bloating whatsoever, that could be the deciding factor. The ab and thigh belongs to Curry. Unless Heath somehow magically regains his 2011 midsection, Curry's outline is just too good in this one. Even in his heyday, Phil always looked a little too bottom-heavy here in my eyes. And once again, the most muscular should be an awesome head-to-head matchup. It could honestly all come down to this, and how cool would it be if that's how it played out? If these two were so close that it all came down to the final pose? Well, let me tell you, if it does get to that point, Brandon should be feeling pretty confident. Okay, so this is probably going to be the most controversial thing I say in the whole video, but mark my words, I believe Curry can beat Phil in the crab most muscular now. It sounds crazy to say it out loud, and if I recall correctly, I myself ranked Phil as being the all-time greatest in this particular pose. But keep in mind, that was back in his prime. In the past few years, I've noticed him getting gradually weaker in it, to the point where, in 2018, he was arguably losing it to everyone in the top callout, including a tricepless Sean Roden. For the record, that callout also included the best version of Rowley Winkler to date, and a very big William Bonac, so those are some heavy hitters for sure. But yeah, be my guest, go back and look at the footage and comparison pics, and tell me that Phil was running away with it, because he wasn't. Conversely, Brandon has steadily been getting better to the point where his crab has probably overtaken Phil's now. Phil will still own him from the waist down, but if that waist hasn't shrunk since the last time we saw him, he's going to be in for a rude awakening. So yeah, guys, that's how I would sum it up if we're lucky enough to see Brandon Curry and Phil Heath go head-to-head for the title. I really hope we do, because Lord knows this year does not need any more disappointments, am I right? Alright, thank you for watching. As always, please leave a like and subscribe for more, and I'll catch you next weekend when we cover the long-awaited 2020 Mr. Olympia. Until then, this has been the Tominator signing off, and I'll be back.